When I was a child, growing up in the sleepy town of Moshasik, Russia, I lived an isolated life. I grew up alone, despite having brothers and sisters around. They were much older than me, and being a child of 7 years old, I found no entertainment in talking to them. My only outlet at this time was to write, and I mean write in the broadest sense. I would write anything: stories, messages to myself, poems, anything. I was fascinated by words, having just learned to write. I would spend most evenings confined to my bedroom, writing myself into whole new worlds. I often used to just fall asleep halfway through writing a story, and wake up to return to it the next morning. One night, I was writing a very easygoing, childlike story, as exciting a story as you can expect from a 7-year-old. I distinctly remember this story. I was writing about a lonely bear that had gotten lost from its mother and was desperately trying to find her. Despite being engrossed in my imagination, I fell asleep. This wasn't disheartening to me, as it was more than a frequent occurrence. However, what I awoke to the next morning was not. When reading through what I had written the previous night, something startled me. The last sentence I had written was, "The little bear could see his mummy on the horizon." Yet, following on from my sentence, in handwriting that was not my own, was the word friend. I was unsure how to feel about seeing this. I knew for a fact I hadn't written it. The style of handwriting was calligraphic, and mine was childlike and basic. I pushed the story away from me, then pulled it back to me and tore it up. I remember saying out loud, "No." I tried not to let this bother me, and things went back to normal within a few hours. A few weeks passed. I continued to write and draw. Life went on as normal. One night, I awoke abruptly from a disturbing dream. I remember that dream to this day. There was nothing obviously startling about it, but something about it just did not sit comfortable with me. I could see flashing images of hands, a big hand and a small hand, both entwined. This, upon first glance, does not seem like something that would frighten anybody. However, the way the fingers wrapped around each other was not comforting. The fingers on the small hand were distorted, almost as if they were broken. The larger hand was even more frightening. It had pulsating veins throbbing from every angle, and it gripped the small hand with a crushing force. Stumbling around the darkness of my room, all I could do was cry. Once I managed to pull myself together, I sat on the bed, and that's when the crippling pain in my right hand hit me. It felt red hot, and it ached terribly. It was at this point I lost consciousness. I awoke the next morning to happily find that my hand was no longer in any pain, and despite feeling shaken from the experience, I felt contented. Later that day, I returned to my desk to start work on a new story, only to be confronted with something I still cannot explain. My story about the little bear had been pieced back together perfectly and was laid out in front of me. Etched onto the paper, stretched across every segment, was the word friend. I began to shake. Nothing about this was right. I furiously scrambled the pieces of paper, frustrated, and shut my eyes. I tried to calm myself down by counting to 10 in my head. I opened my eyes to find something even more disturbing than the paper. The desk beneath the story was damaged. The word friend was engraved deep into the oak wood. Whoever or whatever had written on my story had such force that it had destroyed the surface of my desk. I left my room and refused to go back in there for the following month. Upon return to my bedroom, I felt apprehensive. I hadn't written a single story in the month that had passed, and I had done everything possible to keep the incident from my mind. On the night of my return, I felt unnaturally tired. It crept up on me out of nowhere, and suddenly, all I wanted was my bed. I climbed under the sheets, and within seconds, I was asleep. For the first time since the previous month, I was plagued with that same foul dream, those awful crushing hands. I awoke again, roughly the same time of night as before. However, this time, things became much more surreal. My eyes shot open. I was instantly wide awake, but I couldn't move. It felt as if some great force had placed their hands onto each of my shoulders. I couldn't move my torso. I began to whimper and kick my legs. I opened my mouth to scream for my parents, but what I felt, what I can only describe as fingers being forced into my mouth, gripping at my bottom jaw, paralyzing my ability to talk. I kicked violently, desperately trying to kick a wall or anything within reach in an attempt to wake my parents. I had never felt so scared. I was too scared to even cry. Whatever had hold of me was not letting me go. I dug my nails into the bed sheets, praying that this would all stop. All I could think about was how badly I wanted my father to come help me. I kept thinking, "Daddy," and that's when I heard its voice for the first time. A loud growl within millimeters of my left ear. "Daddy is gone. You're my friend." It was then that I was released. My shoulders loosened, and the fingers left my mouth. I leapt from my bed, running quicker than I ever have done in my life out of my bedroom and into my parents' room. I forced the door open and stopped in my tracks at what I saw. My parents were both sleeping, my father on the closet side to the door. A tall, dark shadow was looming over him, arms outstretched. I screamed, thinking of nothing other than my father's safety, and launched myself at it, falling straight through it and landing on my father. I had to explain the night's events to my parents the next morning, who obviously didn't trust the word of a tired 7-year-old girl. About 4 weeks later, we moved to the United Kingdom, and whatever entity plagued me never appeared again. I will never be able to explain what happened to me, and I will never be able to understand it. Have you ever been alone at night in your cold house? Turning on the heat won't do you any good. Chills run down your spine as you see your own breath rush out of your throat. The computer is a LED temptress, begging you to browse, browse, browse. You fail at attempting to refuse. You find yourself on the computer, browsing, browsing, browsing at useless nothings. Everything you come across becomes interesting due to your unintelligent, sleepless mind. You wrap yourself in a blanket, grab a cup of coffee, hoping to gain warmth. Despite every single attempt, heat refuses to enter your body. Suddenly, your computer goes black. A haunting tuned-down sound accompanies it. The bags under your eyes become thin as your eyes widen. Whispers haunt the house. It sounds like winds of the Arctic, but words are being formed. Haunting words in the wind. Your body feels cold as a breeze runs past it. You look around. All of the windows are shut. No source of wind can possibly affect you. Chills, chills, chills down your spine. Did you feel the cold rush down the length of your back? Sorry, my fingers are cold. If you ever find yourself in LA's old Chinatown, head into the square. Go past the statue of Sun Yat-sen, past the hip ultra-mod toy store called Monkey King, and look for an import store next to what used to be a wishing fountain. Go into this store and head all the way to the back, and you'll see a selection of weapons. Look for a weapon called a jujubian, a sort of multi-sectioned whip. It must have exactly 9 segments, no more, no less. This will be called a chain of night. As of now, there are 48 notches in its handle. It'll cost you $29.95. Then, after that, go outside and wait till dark. As the moon rises, take a quarter from your pocket and cast it at the wishing well. As it lands, focus on that spot exactly and slowly chant under your breath. By the circles of Lao Tzu, the void inside of matter, I call forth the spirit that lingers here. This phrase is best said in the original Mandarin, but the spirit will understand the sincere supplicant regardless of language. A girl will step out of the bottom of the fountain, about 9 years of age. She will ask you, "Where has my mother gone?" You must respond with, "She has long since gone from earth, but look to the sky and see her there." This spirit is not that of a little girl, but of a bog hag, cursed to obey this one command, regardless of who says it. At this moment, you must attempt to strike the girl with your newly acquired jujubian. She will then snarl and attempt to fight back. Should you win, all the money ever thrown into the fountain will await you. If you fail, all that the folks in Chinatown know is that a bloody jujubian lies at the door of the import store with a notch in its handle. To date, there are 49 notches in the handle.